Hi, I'm Jimmy. In this video, we're looking at Visa and Mastercard. So we're going to look quickly at how Visa and Mastercard operate their businesses. Then we're going to look at the industry and where the industry is going, some potential headwinds that the industry is running into. And then finally, we're going to look at some of the numbers, try to come up with a fair value for each of their stocks to see if they're worth investing in today. Okay, first, let's look at how this industry works. So let's imagine there's a consumer goes into a store and they are going to make a purchase. Now, whether or not they're swiping a credit card or tapping or using Apple Pay, well, all of those scenarios are likely to still use a Visa or Mastercard type of system. They're the foundation that connects all of the different users. So there's the customer, and then the customer's bank, and then the merchant, whoever's selling the goods, and their bank. Now, it's important to distinguish the banks from Visa and Mastercard themselves, because Visa and Mastercard are not lenders. They don't set interest rates. You don't owe them any money. It is all generally done through a third party. So if you have a Visa debit card or a Visa credit card, well, it's done through a bank. The Visa and Mastercard, we'll call them the rails of this entire situation, are simply how the data is processed. Now, to process that data, Visa and Mastercard essentially take a fee for that. Now, last fiscal year, Visa got a bit more than 70% of all their revenue from the fees from this collected rail network. The money that they collect through managing this rail system, well, they got a bit more than 70% of the revenue. Mastercard got about 60% of their revenue from it. There's other services we'll touch on in a second, but this is primarily how their revenue is generated. So they call this entire setup the four-party system for obvious reasons. Now, this has been in place for an extremely long time, and they've gotten very efficient with it. So when our customer goes into the store, they make a purchase. Well, within seconds, the Visa or Mastercard rails, this Visa or Mastercard highway, if you want to call it that, data gets sent over. Hey, does this person have the money, or do they have the available credit? An approval or denial gets back. Does it look like fraud? And then another important part here is that if later down the line, the customer wants to return the product, well, they can reverse it. All of this is set up already in place. Now, this is very important because this brings us to the future of it. And if you think of bank-to-bank transactions, so here's where the industry is going, or where the industry could go, part of the industry. Imagine if the customer walks in and their bank, the customer's bank, they now swipe their card or tap their card, whatever, at the merchant at the store. When they tap their card, their bank automatically talks to the other bank, right? Directly. They don't go over the Visa or Mastercard rails. They don't go through that system. This is something, if you think of a network like Zelle. Zelle is a bank-to-bank setup, directly to the bank. So in theory, the merchant could be paid a lot faster. You could get paid for less. You wouldn't have to pay those Visa or Mastercard fees, which can add up if you're the merchant. And in theory, this has the potential of putting a lot of pressure on the current setup of the industry. Zelle is one big example in the United States. United Kingdom already has a whole bunch of bank-to-bank transactions and systems set up in place that kind of threaten the way it's been done over the past few years. So the story has very much shifted from people using less cash and going more to digital transactions, which is obviously what it's been like over the past couple decades. But now it's switching to, well, are they going to get away from what Visa and Mastercard are offering at all? And instead, are they going to go direct bank to bank? Again, this is already happening in other countries to some degree. Even in the United States, this account-to-account transactions are a threat to the industry. There's a thing called FedNow in the United States, which is very similar. There's another one, RTP, again, very similar. But these are all things that have been putting pressure on both Visa and Mastercard stock. Over the past year, both of the stocks are down between 5 and 10%. So there's been some pressure on these companies. Now, to help combat this incoming pressure, this ongoing pressure that the industry's been feeling, this shift, well, Visa and Mastercard are both doing their own things. They have a whole bunch of extra value-add services, things like fraud protection. They have different software. They do consulting. They do a lot of other things, and they're trying to expand those add-on services to diversify their revenue a bit. Now, I will point out that although it is possible that this current setup, which most transactions are handled this way, it is possible that, or it's more than likely that this doesn't stop existing. Yes, account-to-account transactions are becoming more prevalent, especially outside of the United States. And even in the United States, they're picking up some speed. Some of the issues there is, for example, returns. While that is well ingrained in what the four-party system does, it is fairly easy to return things and, claw back money that has been charged on a credit card and things like that. It is far more difficult when you go direct account to account. The other possibility is if you look in, especially in the United States, there's a lot of credit cards, for example, points and all that stuff. The system is far bigger than just Visa and MasterCard. All of the banks involved, all of the current setup, there's been some incentive. A lot of consumers, for example, want credit cards or want car accounts that offer points and rewards and all of that stuff. Well, if the consumer's not willing to switch, that makes sure that the merchants, the sellers, the stores, well, they have to accept it if they want to make their sales. And if that's the only way to get points. So point is that it's not as simple as, hey, we've replaced the back end with account-to-account transactions. Therefore, Visa and MasterCard are no longer necessary. I don't think that that is going to happen. I think that there is pressure on them. But if anything, that's going to put some pressure on their margins and perhaps their growth rate. With that being said, let's jump in and look at some of the numbers. Now, I'm going to do this entire analysis for the numbers on the Investors Grow website. Now, we're starting with Visa here, and Visa is the larger of the two companies. But on the Investors Grow website, if you hit this plus up at the top here, and then we can add MasterCard, and now we can see all of their numbers kind of side by side. So first, let's jump in and look at revenue. Okay, now Visa's the bars on the left, MasterCard's the bars on the right. And then we have the 3-month trailing average. That's the line for each of the individual companies. And you can see that overall, both of their revenue numbers have been growing fairly consistently. Obviously, Visa is a larger company and they're generating more revenue. So that's good, something to keep in the back of our mind. Then when we jump over and look at profit or net income, well, once again, the numbers have been doing fairly good. Over the past decade, they have been trending higher, and even up to recently have continued to move higher. And again, Visa looks bigger. Visa is a bigger company, so they are generating more profit. Now, to make them a bit more comparable, let's look at net income margins. Basically, out of every $100, how much out of every $100 in revenue do they turn into profit? And we can see over the past 12 months, well, MasterCard has put up about $45. Visa is a bit over $50. So it is not just that Visa is growing better, but they're actually a more profitable company. This chart's a great chart to see how the two stack up to each other. One, MasterCard is impressively flat, which is good. That's impressively consistent. This is, by the way, a net income profit margin up near 50% is extraordinarily high. We're comparing this to a company like Microsoft. Microsoft has a net income profit margin of less than 40. And theirs is outstanding. Apple's less than 30. A company like Amazon's at 12%. You go to a big retailer like Walmart, well, they're single digits. So sitting up near 45, 50% for net income profit margins is really an outrageous number. Then when we jump over and look at free cash flow, well, again, this is a chart of both companies. And although they both look fairly good and fairly consistent, this is one of the first ones where, yes, MasterCard is not generating as much free cash flow as Visa is, but it kind of looks like MasterCard is doing pretty good recently, right? It looks like it's kind of catching up, which is perfect because now we're going to jump over and look at the fair value for Visa, then MasterCard, both using discounted free cash flow. Okay, so first up is Visa. Now, using just analyst estimates going out the next few years. So the assumption here is that we use analyst estimates and then it just drops to the perpetual growth rate. I'm using 2.5% growth. So if anything, it's a fairly conservative number. And we can see that the stock looks a bit overvalued, but not outrageously so. Now, if we wanted to extend that out a bit and go maybe out 10 years or so, well, now the fair value is a little bit closer to about $300 per share. So again, it's a bit overvalued, but I don't think that these numbers are at all that outrageous. I think that the threat to this industry, I think that there is a real threat, and there will likely to be some pressure on their profit margins, but I don't think that these companies are going to go away. Plus, they're doing what they can to fight back. They're trying to diversify their revenue. They are working on their own, systems that will offset what account to account, that the account to account threat is likely to bring. They're working on their own stuff already. So I do think that will put pressure on the industry from a margin perspective, but I don't think that this is all that outrageous. So in this case, we just need the stock to pull back a bit. Now, when we look at Mastercard, we got a very similar situation. First, going out just 5 years, well, the stock looks like it's worth a bit under $4.50 a share. So not too bad, fairly close to fair value. But if we were to go out, project out, and let's have a less conservative look at their future, and we were to go out a total of 10 years, same growth settings that we had over with Visa, except we're using Mastercard's analyst estimates, and we go out 10 years, well, suddenly this stock looks a bit undervalued, which I think is a real opportunity because, again, I think that although this industry is feeling some pressure, these are two of the best companies in the industry. I'd love, on a personal basis, to get involved in Mastercard. I think I might take a position in this one in the not too distant future. And if Visa could pull back just a bit more, I'd like to jump in and buy that one. And to me, I think that from a long-term investment standpoint, both of these companies are very interesting. And I think the market has put a lot of pressure on them, yes. But I think that as time goes on and these companies continue to grow, the market will eventually reprice it closer to the way they were a couple of years ago. Now, if you want to sign up to get access to the Investors Grow website, where we try to make it quick and easy to analyze companies, I'll leave a link right here, link in the description below. And thank you so much for sticking with me all the way to the end of the video. I really do appreciate it. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.